Good evening. I've got a new backdrop, which isn't really much of a backdrop because it's in the new residence. But recently, Glenn put out a video with 54 Bus going over his top 5 baits for the year, which not so subtly reminded me I should probably do the same. So here I am. We're gonna run these down. Hopefully at some point the wall behind me will look a little bit more creative and a little bit nicer, but at the same time the focus isn't really on me, and it's definitely not on the wall. It's about the baits. So with that being said, let's dive into these baits and run down the top ones from this year so far. First one that's up, we'll go over kind of a surprise for me this year, to be completely honest. My camera will focus on it. It's not really getting a good focus here because there's just, anyway, chatterbait. TNA Angry Dragon. This thing did really well for us in the Northwoods and especially in Canada. You haven't seen much of the Canadian stuff yet. It's on its way. I'm working on it. Hopefully it'll be out, I don't know, sometimes. I'm hoping to be working on it here very soon and be done with the Northwoods stuff and kind of keep going. But anyway, TNA Angry Dragon was huge for us in Canada. Me and Connor caught several fish on it. It just, it was getting bites when nothing else would. When they were following bucktails, they were smoking that thing. But again, it's just time and place with everything, and that's a huge part of it. So again, TNA Angry Dragon coming in at number 5. Let's keep running down the list here. Next one is going to be really no surprise at all to anyone who follows the channel with any sort of frequency. We've got the Midusa. It catches fish anywhere and everywhere and just does an immense amount of work. This happens to be one of my favorite Dusa colors, the lemon drop, but they all work and they work well. Whether it was early in the spring with Taylor, or whether it was later in the season, you know, with Barry, the Midusa was moving fish, catching fish, doing the things. I really like the mids. Like, they catch all the fish in all the sizes. You can catch little ones, you can catch big ones. When I needed a bite a couple times in the fall, I leaned really hard on the Midusa and it paid off. And don't be shying away from the mids just because they're a little bit smaller. They still catch big fish. I've caught several mid-40s fish with these. The Smiths just posted a fish on their channel. That was a really good one. I don't know if it was like 46 or 7 or 8. I don't know. It was a big one. And that was on a mid. So, I mean, the biggest thing is just got to chuck them around, have some confidence that the mid will get the job done just like the other ones. I was listening to, I don't know if it was Musky Road Rules or Ugly Pike recently, and Hans the Carver was on there, and he was talking about how oftentimes 8-inch profiles are better for their crankbaits and trolling baits because the fish can actually eat them and get the whole bait in their mouth, and you don't have to worry about awkwardly hooking them in the side of the face. I think that kind of thought process applies to rubber as well. If you can get them to eat rubber that's a more bite size, I think you're going to greatly improve your hookup ratio there. But I digress. Moving on to number 3 on the list. Again, not a huge shocker, not a huge surprise. If you've been following the channel recently, I've been showing this one a lot. It's because it caught a bunch of fish for me. And just did really awesome for me in the Northwoods. I didn't throw it a ton down here in the fall. I did throw it some, but mostly with the timber, I'm too scared to make it happen. I was throwing it some in open water over schools of bait fish and stuff, but I just didn't hook up on those trips. But again, the Topline Dipstick XL is really hard to beat. You know, the foil, the paint, everything. Adam does such a killer job with these. It's just, they're really hard to beat. I know people on YouTube, they are hard to get your hands on. Freaking get it. I'm sorry that that's the case. Don't think that the blessing of this bait is lost on me just because I have a couple of them. They're really unique. They hit a spot in the water column and a profile in action that very few, if any, baits can really replicate. So the only one that would come to mind would maybe be like the Phantom Exorcist, but I don't think it's doing the same thing down there that this one is, and it's certainly not putting off the amount of flash that this one is. So again, Topline Dipstick XL is going to be right up there with baits that I'm pumped to throw next year, my top producing baits this year, it just crushes it. Moving on to probably number 2. Again, not going to come as a huge shocker, and speaking of Glenn McDonald, this is the blade with no name that I picked up from him, I think 2 years ago, maybe now. As you can tell, it's been rightly chewed, a little worse for wear. You can hardly even see the sticker on there anymore. It's starting to come off, actually. There's teeth marks in the blades. You know it's a good bait when you've got teeth marks in the paint of the top blade. Like, that just means they're absolutely destroying this thing. I've never seen fish eat a bucktail like they eat these blades with no name. This was definitely a top producer this year. I had a gear slip on my reel, otherwise I probably would have had one of my biggest fall fish on it this year. Just an absolutely awesome bait. Did really awesome for me. Just really cool. Alright, I feel a little silly about this, but I forgot to grab the lure that I caught my personal best on when I sat down here. So, Soul Searcher, Bangarang, definitely up there. I don't know, it's probably not number 2. I got 3 fish on it this year, which is less than some of the other baits. I guess technically more than this one for me. I was witness to and netted more fish with the Angry Dragon this year than anything, but the Soul Searcher, just an awesome bait. Really unique crank, really unique profile. They just move a ton of water and then they just sit there, which is really cool when the fish don't really want to move. They don't want to do anything in particular. Soul Searcher is a great one. Again, I would be silly not to mention it, having caught my PB on it. Caught 2 other really awesome Minnesota fish on it and lost a really good one in Canada on it. Again, Canada stuff's coming, so you'll see it here very soon. Last and certainly not least in the lineup for baits from this past season that performed really well, and probably my top producing bait this year. Again, I didn't do all the math on it, but the Ridgway. Ridgway Customs, this happens to be his 9-inch pro model. I think that I got this one bit on like the 4th cast. The thing with the pros is they do get a little bit deeper in certain aspects and they have a little bit slower rise, so it's pretty easy for them to get bogged in the weeds if, you know, your depth curve is just a little off or you're not sure where that depth curve is. Anyway, neither here nor there. Ridgways did awesome. I think I got a 46-incher with Glenn, or one that was just over 46 with Glenn in Canada. Glenn is, I guess, featured in this video without being featured in the video. But anyway, got that awesome one in Canada on it. Got just several others this fall. Lost a few good ones on it this fall, but that's like musky fishing. The Ridgway Customs, just love these things. They keep producing fish. They're just a big profile that moves a ton of water, and the fish just cannot stand it. Matt was catching fish on these things like up until the last week of December, I think. So, I mean, they work in any water temp. They work in pretty much any part of the water column. Those ones in Canada is catching super deep or over super deep water. They weren't super deep, but I was getting this thing down like, I don't know, 8-10 foot or so, and it was working great. So yeah, that's the lineup. That's the top 5. So run them down again. Angry Dragon, Soul Searcher. Yes, I realize this is 6 baits now. I kind of forgot about the Soul Searcher, but bear with me. Got the Midusa, Blade with no name, Dipstick XL. Last, certainly not least, Ridgway Customs crank. Check out those Pro Series. Those things are freaking awesome. He sent me a couple others. One smaller one that I'm looking forward to chucking in the spring a little bit. Just when maybe they don't want that bigger profile. But yeah, 23 was really awesome. I hope that every one of you had an awesome musky season, crushed your PB, crushed your numbers, did whatever you wanted to do, and hopefully the fish cooperated for you. They certainly did for me at times. I ended the season with a beautiful fish in November that, you know, honestly, I was just happy to be out there fishing with Barry, and the fish was just a bonus. So anytime you can have that happen, it's great. So anyway, looking forward to 24. Got some plans in the works, got some tackle talks that I'm trying to coordinate and get some moving parts going for. I'm still trying to figure out if I'll be able to be at any show seasons. Oh, speaking of show seasons, Topline Baits. You guys are always commenting on my videos, where can I get these? Adam will be at the New York show. So if you want one of those, I know New York is not close, but like that's the best direction I can point you in if you want one of those dipsticks. Also, Matt Ridgway will be at Wausau for sure. He always goes to that one. I don't know if he goes to any others. He'll have some online randomly from time to time. So just check those out. As always, Chaos has some awesome show colors in the works. I've seen a few of them myself. Got to test a couple of them myself. They work well. So that will be sweet. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got for you tonight for this tackle talk on, you know, my best baits of the year. It's not flashy, it's not fancy, but that's what worked for me this season, and I don't know, hopefully maybe some of that perspective can benefit all of you at some point. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. Thank you to everyone who is a part of the 23 season for me. Thank you to all those who make these things possible. My family for allowing me to chase these stupid fish and give me the time to do it. And all the wonderful people that I share the boat with on a very regular basis. I couldn't do it without you guys, and I could not be more appreciative of it. With that being said, good luck in 24. I'll catch you all in the next one.